An Affliction of the Heart, Volume 2, by Anonymous Pegasus. Chapter 9, Old Wounds. A soft drizzle washed down over Warden's wings, and he peered up at the sky with a long, suffering expression, water dripping off his nose. He lifted his left wing to cover himself slightly, his right wing aching far too much to extend properly. His limp was as bad as ever, and his pace was slow. Kuno had been gone for a while now, and he was quite certain she wouldn't be returning looking for him at least for a little while. Her sweet tooth would keep her in front of the oven for an hour at least, and licking the bowl for another hour. Warden just needed time alone. Time to think and work it all out. His intended target lay ahead, visible past the soft patter of raindrops. The old apple tree under which his first wife was buried. Warren stepped in under the sheltering canopy of leaves and shook his wing off, giving a faint groan and dropping onto his stomach in front of the grave, staring at the headstone, resting his head on his hooves. Water dripped onto his nose from the branches of the tree, but he ignored it. It was several long minutes before he spoke. "Hi, Swarm. Long time no talk, I guess. What's it been? Almost 2 years now?" Warren trailed off, burying his nose between his hooves and closing his eyes. "I think I'm in love. I know, I've already been married. You were the love of my life, and we spent so much time together. But this is different. It's so much more powerful." Warren paused then, shaking his head and staring glumly at the gravestone of his dead wife, biting his bottom lip. "I remember how it felt when I was with you. How it made me happy and warm. I was content. I was the happiest I'd ever been in my life. And then you were gone. And it was the worst time of my life. And now I'm going to marry Kuno. And I'm even happier than when I was with you." Warren bit his bottom lip again, clenching his eyes closed and grinding his hooves against the ground slowly. "But I just feel so guilty. What did I do to deserve Kuno? What did I do to deserve you? What right do I have to just turn around now that you're gone and move on to something that's better?" Warren sighed, hanging his head. "I don't even know if it's just time has numbed it all, or if I really do love Kuno more than I loved you. But I feel like I'm moving on. I know I said I was moving on, and I was going to live for me, that I was going to be strong and not get stepped on." Warren bit his bottom lip again, creeping closer to the grave and digging a gentle furrow in the earth, tipping a seed into the divot and then covering it over gently. I, I brought you a flower. It was one of your favorites." Warren drew back then, sitting on his haunches and staring at his forehoofs. "I'm just so scared of losing you again, Swarm. And I don't mean in a literal sense. I mean in an emotional sense. Even when I was with Kuno, there was always this little part of me, somewhere deep inside, that was hollow. It was your place. That dull, aching throb in my heart reminded me of everything I lost to get here. It kept me grounded, made me who I am. And now it's gone." Warren scraped a hoof against the ground helplessly, staring at the gravestone. It's gone. And I can't live with that. I can't live with myself if I can just forget you. I can't tolerate myself if I can just throw you aside like a broken toy." Warren sighed faintly, dropping back down onto his chest and staring at the gravestone, resting his head on his hooves like a faithful dog, waiting for his owner to return.
Warden?
A voice asked softly. Warren lifted his head slowly, peering back over his shoulder at Kuno. She was in her natural form, and the soft drizzle made her chins shine in the dying light of the setting sun.
Warden, are you okay?
Kuno asked, coming to sit beside him, gently pushing her nose against his shoulder, lifting a hoof to lay over him reassuringly. No, Warren said with a slow shake of his head. I'm not okay. Kuno gave a sympathetic nod, laying herself out beside him and gently licking at his neck.
Talk to me, Warden.
We're getting married, Warden stated.
I?
Kuno murmured, nodding once.
Are you getting cold hooves?
Warren shook his head slowly. I've never wanted anything more in my entire life, Warren murmured brokenly. Kuno blinked, her ears playing back.
Then, what's the problem?
Warren looked from Kuno to the gravestone, and then back again. You don't understand. You can't understand. Your mind doesn't work like that. Kuno pursed her lips.
Try me.
Warren nodded gently, leaning against the changeling. I've always been pretty torn up about Swarm's passing. I could have saved her, and I didn't. I lost the most valuable thing in my life because of my shortcomings. There's always been a part of me, deep down inside, that just... It was black, empty, hollow. It was a wretched, seething pit of agony, and the only way I could cope was to ignore it. Kuno gently pushed her nose against his cheek, nuzzling him reassuringly. It was the part of my heart that Swarm took with her when she died. It was always empty and black and painful. But now it's gone. And I didn't even notice it was leaving. Warren bit his bottom lip, almost drawing blood. She was my wife, and I'm just over her? I'm a monster. Only a monster could look back at their dead wife and feel calm. Kuno gently pulled him against her with her hoof, nuzzling soothingly into his neck.
You're not a monster, Warden.
I'm a heartless bastard, and I don't deserve you, Warren said bitterly, forcing back tears. She was my life, and I feel nothing.
She was your life,
Kuno murmured softly, nuzzling her nose against his cheek gently, inviting it in a kiss.
I am your life now.
I just replaced her, Warren murmured brokenly. I found some pony better and just replaced her. I failed her, and I don't even have the decency to hurt about it anymore.
Time heals all injuries,
Kuno murmured soothingly, nuzzling her nose against him reassuringly.
Warden, did you get any letters from the hospital after Swarm passed away?
Warren immediately looked up at Kuno. Her tone was tactful, careful, and delicate. She was tiptoeing around something. I threw them on the fire. I didn't care to read them. Kuno's ears pinned back at that, and she looked away, biting her bottom lip.
When you were in the hospital, unconscious all the time, I did a bit of snooping.
Snooping, Warren repeated flatly.
Swarm is an unusual name for a pony. I thought that maybe she was a changeling or something. Just a stupid theory that I had to disprove. I searched the records and, well, I found the autopsy report for Swarm.
What are you getting at? Warren asked bluntly, in no mood for verbal games. Kuno pinned her ears back.
Oh, well, the original report says that she died due to complications resulting from her cancer. But the autopsy didn't say that.
Warren stared at Kuno for a long moment, silent.
I didn't want to tell you. I didn't tell you sooner because it's just reopening old wounds, making you relive all this pain, and just adding to it. And I don't like seeing you hurt, but
Kuno trailed off, biting her bottom lip before taking a deep breath, steeling herself.
the autopsy report revealed that Swarm died due to complications arising from both her cancer and the foe.
Warren looked up sharply, his eyes widening.
Foe?
He asked. He felt like the wind had been knocked out of him. Kuno nodded gently.
The medication they were giving her for the cancer caused her to have an extremely early miscarriage. None of the nurses noticed the signs, and the strain caused heart problems and... Warden, I'm sorry.
Warren gave a slow exhale, feeling tears springing into his eyes. He swallowed them down hard, trying his best to even out his breathing. A fiery spike of pain was twisting in his chest, like someone had shoved a dagger in his side. It took him several tries to be able to speak, his bottom lip quivering. She was pregnant? Kuno nodded gently.
Her outlook was bleak without the medicine she needed. Probably why she didn't tell anybody. She wouldn't have made it another month.
Did they know what the foal was? Warren managed to ask. Kuno looked away, frowning.
Warden,
Tell me! Warren hissed. Kuno paused at that, her ears splaying, before she nodded gently.
it was a unicorn. A little colt.
Warren bit his bottom lip so hard that he tasted blood, turning away and staggering a few steps to the side, hanging his head and trying to steady his breathing, panting raggedly at the ground. Kuno stepped over to her fiancé, gently wrapping her hooves around him. Warren pushed her away firmly, looking away, a single dribble of blood sliding down his chin. Kuno came back at him doggedly, wrapping her hooves around him tightly. Warren struggled again, his ears pinning back, his eyes rimmed in red. She was pregnant, he whimpered brokenly.
Let it all out, Warden.
Kuno murmured softly, rocking him gently back and forth. Warren dissolved into her embrace, burying his nose against her neck and howling in pain, squeezing her tightly with both hoofs, the pain in his crippled hoof irrelevant against the screaming agony stabbing into his chest. Kuno held him, soothing him as best she could, while he wept brokenly in her hoofs.